to order and get this party started. I'm going to ding the bell. There we go. Welcome to the 35th meeting of the 35th year of Sugar Land Rotary Club. If you will, please, those of you on Facebook, log in and let everybody know that you're here and that you're joining our meeting today. We're going to start with an invocation by Margie, the pledge by Rick, and the four-way test by David. Margie, you're up.
Okay, thank you. All right, if y'all would bow your heads. We pray, Lord, as a people of many backgrounds, of many faiths, we pray together as one during this time when our world is in so much despair, in so much turmoil, and so much uncertainty. We pray for unity of heart, unity of mind as Rotarians to join together to bring peace, to bring truth, to bring all the things that we will recite in our four-way test to our world, because by changing our own personal world and our own community, we can do our part to change the world. In your name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Margie. All right, Rick, I'll hold up the flag.
Please join me and Raleigh in the pledge to allegiance of our country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the
republic
for
which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And so that, the pledge should be the hardest thing, standpoint of there's all of you know it.
Yeah.
And we actually got through it.
We did. It's the hardest one every week, too. I'm not sure why that is. All right, four-way test. David.
First, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Yes. Is
It's the truth.
Yes.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all
Fair to all
concerned?
concerned.
Third.
Will build goodwill and better
friendship.
And fourth.
Will it be beneficial to
all
all
concerned?
concerned?
And the Sugar Land fifth.
Will it do any good?
Good.
Yes.
Nice. We got through that one too. Thank you, David.
Barely.
Almost.
All right. Now I'm going to turn it over to Flo so she can tell us about our birthdays and anniversaries this month.
Hello, everyone. This is, I feel like it's been forever since we've gone over birthdays and anniversaries, but today is Michelle Bauer's birthday, and I'm sad that she's not with us today.
Oh.
Scott Finley is on the 5th. Todd Breton is on the 10th. Tab Dye is on the 13th. And Steve Harris's birthday is on the 24th. Our anniversaries for this month, Tracy and past District Governor Jeff Tallis have been married for 17 years. We have several Rotarversaries. Let's see, I'll start with Superintendent Charles Dupree has been in service with Rotary for 6 years. Laura Levine her Rotarversary is 13 years. And Mark Huckert, 21 years of service in Rotary. We have Jay Harris, 37 years of service in Rotary. Pat Bullard, 27 years. Tab Dye, 23 years. Bill Griffin, 37 years. Sonny Johnson, who is here today, it says 30 years of service in Rotary, but I know that's got to be longer than that. And Steve Varney, 34 years in Rotary. Thank you so much for all of these long-term service years to our club and to Rotary as a whole. So congratulations, you guys. Happy birthday, anniversary, and Rotarversary.
That was impressive. Thank you, Flo. Todd, are you ready to do Rotarian of the Month, or you want to postpone that for a minute?
I can do it, sure.
All right, you're up.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is my last month doing Rotarian of the Month, so I'm very excited to announce today's recipient. So let me tell you a little bit about this Rotarian. This month's Rotarian of the Month is an active community leader. This Rotarian is a graduate from Xavier University and received the distinguished honor of Magna Cum Laude, and is a graduate from the University of Cincinnati Law School with an honor in Summa Cum Laude. This Rotarian has 2 daughters and 1 son, all very successful. This Rotarian is dedicated to their family, friends, and service in the community. This Rotarian grew up in Cincinnati suburbs. The Rotarian has 2 brothers and attended an all-girls Catholic school. This Rotarian enjoys working out. The Rotarian of the Month is currently doing online workouts since the club they normally instruct at is currently not operating. This Rotarian likes to cycle and spin biking. This Rotarian also likes to travel, hike in Colorado, taste wine, watching movies, and reading books. And this Rotarian is also an avid baseball fan. One thing most people may not know about the Rotarian of the Month is this Rotarian completed an Ironman race. So please help me in congratulating June's Rotary of the Month, Margie Conley.
Thank you, Todd, and thank you, everybody. That was very, very nice and very unexpected.
Yeah, well earned. Thank you, Margie.
Thank you, Margie, for everything you've done.
Yeah. All right, Darla, do you want to give us a service chair announcement?
Yes, it's good to see all your faces. I can't wait till we're all together again in person. So I miss all of us being together, and I've been trying to get us a social so we can all get together. It's very hard because a lot of the restaurants and locations do not want to have more than 6 people at a table or in a group. So I am going to send an email out, and we're gonna, if you would like, to have happy hour at my house, because my restaurant here doesn't mind how many people are at a table. So I'll send an email out, and maybe next week we can, whoever wants to come over, feels comfortable, can come over, and there's plenty of room to roam, and we can at least be together for a couple of hours. The other thing is, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or if Raleigh's going to say this, but we have an installation coming up soon, and it's June 23rd. Not if I've got that right. I've got 2 dates in my head. Okay. And it's at the Texas Safari Club, and it's going to start at 5:30. And I did send an Evite out. If you have not responded to the Evite, please do so we can have an exact head count and let Texas Safari know who all is going to be able to come. And if you're not, that's fine. We understand. I don't know if I'm saying this right, so Todd, knock me off the bench if I'm not here. Maybe we're going to have it Zoom live. I'm not sure. Okay.
Yeah, I plan on going practicing out there sometime in the next couple of weeks. So yes.
Okay. So anyway, we're going to have a fun month. No matter if we're together or apart, it doesn't matter. Our hearts are still twined together, and we're going to all be under one roof again soon. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Darla. Yeah, for those of you who can't or don't want to come in person, do please join us by Zoom if you're available that night. How about Lynn? Would you like to give us an update?
Sure. So for those of you that don't know, next Wednesday we have our first responders event over Zoom, and I have been in contact with Police Chief Eric Robbins and Fire Chief Doug Oker, and Jim Munnell is putting together the plaques, and so we're looking forward to doing that remotely this year over Zoom, hopefully next year in person. But so everybody, please plan on attending. They have the Zoom information, and so it should be a very fun event.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. I just want to give a quick shout out to birthday girl, Michelle. I see you've joined us now today, so happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
No place I'd rather spend it, so here you go.
There you go.
Birthday.
Yeah, okay, any other service chair announcements from Dr. Doyle, Allison, Ward? Anybody have anything for us? Going, gone. All right. Now, then, I'm going to do a quick introduction, a very quick introduction of our speaker, my personal friend, Mark Jewell, and I'll let him tell you more about himself as he gets started. Mark and I first met virtually, I guess, around towards the end of 2015. In this group, the same group that Dr. Bart, who spoke with us a few weeks ago, came from. And so it's the Next Level group, and he and I met in person for the first time. I believe it was in September 2017 at an event that they did, and really hit it off well with Mark at that event. And then since then, some of y'all know I've gone to Columbia a couple times, and that was all inspired by Mark. I saw him go and posting about it about a year earlier, and so I ended up going with him in December of 2018, then again in June of 2019, and would have gone a third time in October of 2019, but lo and behold, after I'd already bought my ticket and everything, the Astros made it to the World Series, and I was going to miss the whole series pretty much if I went, and I just couldn't do that as a lifelong Houston boy and Astros fan. So I had to bail at the last minute, but I do hope to go with them again. We had originally actually talked about going the last week of June this month, but last I heard they still hadn't opened the airport down there. So to be determined when we'll do that again. But he's a good friend, a great guy, and I'm going to turn it over to you now, Mark, so you can tell us more about yourself. And Todd, if you could make sure everybody's muted, please, so that we can hear Mark clearly. And anybody who has questions, just unmute yourself and ask away.
All right. Well, Raleigh, thank you for having me in. Can I just do a quick audio check? You can show me your hands real quick if you can hear everything's coming through. Okay. Okay. Awesome. This is the interactive part of the presentation today. I like it. Well, thank you. That was a very nice introduction, Raleigh. Appreciate you giving everybody some background of our personal connection, and I'm really very honored to get a chance to come and hang out with you guys for just a little bit here today. So it's been a long time since I've been to a Rotary meeting. So I'm glad that, but this is not my first one. I've grew up around it. So excited. I'll do a very brief intro, and then I put my cell phone number there in the little window where you see my face. And if anybody has any questions or anything based on content that I might cover today, or anything that you felt like I left uncovered in the short amount of time, feel free to shoot me a text message, or you can give me a shout if you want, and happy to discuss further. I live in Omaha, Nebraska, so just a little ways north of you guys. And I'm originally from Minnesota, and I moved around the Midwest the better part of the last 20 years. I think this is address 17 or something like that in my current residence. So I've been been on the move quite a bit. I'm the CEO of what's now called MJST. MJST stands for Mark Jewell Speaking and Training. And in that context and that capacity, we're a corporate training and coaching business. I don't know how many of you are familiar real quick with an organization known as the FFA. We used to call it Future Farmers of America. Anybody ever heard of this, right? So back in my high school and college days, I was about the biggest FFA nerd growing up in the state of Minnesota. I mean, I was in it. I had several blue corduroy jackets, a large affinity for agriculture because I grew up in a very agricultural rural setting, and that's where I come from. That's my background. And I had the opportunity as a member of that organization to go to many leadership events, whether it was like a youth leadership camp or get to do some traveling. But I had this affinity with the presenters, the counselors, the people who were on stage, and I found myself as really a 16-year-old kid in the audience, looking at the guys on stage and the gals on stage and saying, I want to do that. That's what I can see myself doing that. And so when it came time to pick a career, I actually ended up getting a degree in education, and began the journey of trying to figure out how to become a trainer in the corporate space. And one thing led to another, and I had a great opportunity to do a lot of teaching and training when I was even in high school and then in college. I ended up working for the U.S. Agency for International Development. We built a youth leadership organization over in Macedonia. So just the former tip of southern Yugoslavia, so that was the early start of my career. And then I made the transition into more of like what I'd say the corporate side, where we're doing people development and for companies. What I think is always interesting for me is what happened about 7 years ago. So I'm going to share this story about how this business got started, and then I'm going to go back and give you just a little bit more backdrop on myself. So I was doing a presentation. I had written a presentation back in about 2013. It was called Managing Across Generations. So I'm looking around the group here. Okay, we've got some diversity in our generations in the room. I would say we're trending towards the more experienced end. But not entirely, but that's kind of where we're trending that way. So I wrote a program called Managing Across Generations, which I sold to baby boomers to help you all deal with your millennial problems. Okay. You were my target audience for that program. And one day I was in Minot, North Dakota. Dow AgriSciences had paid me to go deliver this presentation to their retail distributors. And I was given this presentation on managing across generations. It was a 2-hour gig. And we talk about things like the need for coaching. We talk about things like the need for more feedback. I want you to think about your younger generation in the workforce right now. You're 23, 24, up to probably my age. I'll be 39 on Friday. I don't know if Scott's on the call, but we share a birthday. So I'm in the June birthday club over there. Happy birthday, Michelle, if yours is today. That's we're close. But we talk about the need for that, let's just say up to about 40. This generation of people is raised very different than many of you are. Just think about it this way. Raise your hand with me really quick if you're in that generation where when you were a kid, you were growing up, from the time you were old enough to get on a bike and go explore the neighborhood on your own to be able to, all the way up until high school, like your parents maybe didn't know where you were all day, part of the day, at least part of the day, right? I mean, you could go explore. Nobody really knew, right? So let's compare and contrast that to where kids are today, right? I mean, my daughter goes to the park, which is 3 blocks away, and I say, text me a selfie when you get there. She's 10. Right? I mean, we have homing beacons on these kids now. Like, we don't let them, when you have the ability to go and explore the neighborhood and go play with your friends and go get dirty and get in trouble, like what that meant is you had the ability to actually go out, cause trouble, break something, and learn how to fix it and cover your butt so that your parents never found out. Now, in the moment, you might have just thought you're trying to cover your tracks a little bit, but quite literally, from a brain development, at that age, you're learning how to manage people's expectations. You're learning how to solve problems, right? And you're just having fun, but you're literally learning how to do things that will have application later on. Because what we now know is roughly between the age of 10 and 12 up to 20 to 22. So in that decade of teenage to early adulthood, there's a massive amount of brain development that happens that allows us to become employees and productive members of society. And so what do you have now? Right? How are we raising kids today? They're literally almost told where to be next, when to be there, how to get there, who's taking you there. Right? Quick show of hands. How many of you, if you had to go if you wanted to go play baseball or softball or volleyball or be on the swim team or do any practice, you had to get yourself there as a kid? Like, you were expected to walk there, bike there, right? So start to look at the difference, right? And so we start to see this. So now you have a generation of people who have entered the workforce who literally have been told almost always through their entire cognitive development what to do next, right? And so then as an employer, and I'm guessing many of you are employers, or you have teams, or you work with people in some way, shape, or form in your professional life, right? I'm just kind of taking a guess of what I know of Rotary and who usually goes and who usually becomes a member. So what's interesting to me, right, is we start to look at when we get frustrated with our coworkers. Because they don't know what to do next, or they seem to not have the initiative to go figure it out on their own. And I'm here to tell you that many of your people who are not able to, especially your younger employees who are not able to figure it out on their own, literally may not have the cognitive wiring built in to know that I'm supposed to know how to go figure this out. This is a very real reality. So I'm in Minot, North Dakota, and I'm presenting some of this information kind of like that to a group. And they said to me, these three general managers come up to me at the end. They said, "Mark, good presentation. We appreciate your insight. Thank you for helping us understand the generations better. I hear what you're saying about you need more feedback. We need more coaching. We need more career planning, and show them the next step and what to do next." He literally says to me, "Listen, son," which is a funny thing. Like, that may be normal in Texas. That is not normal in North Dakota. Okay. He says to me, "Listen, son, I don't have time." And I said, "What do you mean you don't have time?" I said, these are your people, your employees, your team members. This is your number one asset in your business." He said, "Yeah, well, not only do I have to manage that kid, right? I've got these 5 other people. Plus I manage procurement, plus it's my job to go sell $4 million worth of product also, in addition to all that." Right? And so you start to see how we start to stack all these things. And so many of you are so busy on a day-to-day basis that, we literally sometimes don't have time. And so that was a crucial moment for me when I began to understand I can't just tell people this. I have to literally get in the trenches with them and start coaching. And that's where it became, for me, I literally became a coach. I went from just doing speaking and training to becoming a coach. And that's what I want to share. There's a little bit of a long way to get into it today, and I only have a little bit of time, but I'm hoping to deliver 3 just real quick, what I'm going to call leading indicators. Because if you have that, even if you don't have positional authority over an employee, right, and you don't have direct reports in your team, you may have somebody who's next to you. And certainly, as Keith Ferrazzi now defines it in a new book that just came out last week, I would recommend getting a copy. It's called Leading Without Authority. It's a great new book, Leading Without Authority. I'm on his promo team, full disclaimer, but I don't get paid for it. It's a great book. I got an advanced copy and read it. And what it talks about is, what is your team? And if I was to ask you today, how's your team doing? Right? And you might start thinking about those people that report to you, or that you report to, or, that work for you or work around you. But really your team is anybody who is crucial to your mission of accomplishing whatever it is that you're out to accomplish. So if it's a sales number, or if it's customer service scores, or if it's even just tackling something within your Rotary groups, right? There's a team of people, and we saw a team assemble to accomplish the mission of opening up this meeting, right? And so that was Raleigh recruiting his team to be able to do your opening rituals, so to speak, of this meeting. And so if I was to ask, how's your team doing? A lot of people start to refer to those people that directly report to them, but that's not necessarily it. Right? It's who are the team around you that helps support you to accomplish whatever it is important. So the 3 things I want to share with you today are what I use as what I call the leading indicators in a coaching relationship with anybody they coach. So companies hire my company. I have a team of coaches that work with me, and companies hire us to handle some of that coaching workload, because coaching can be a heavy job. It takes a lot of time. And so we serve as kind of that outsourced branch as a coach. And we actually, companies hire us to help do the coaching for them within a certain context. We use these 3 leading indicators, and I call them the 3 C's because they all start with C. So if you're taking notes and you want to write it down, you can just jot, vertically a line of 3 C's. And the difference to me between a leading indicator and a lagging indicator is a lagging indicator is what most of us are typically measuring. Did we hit the goal? Did we hit the sales number? Do we have the retention? Do we have this many customers? Do we have whatever it is, right? That's a lagging indicator that you've done the work, right? So a leading indicator are what are the things that get to happen on the front end to ensure that we get the result on the back end. And so that's how I frame that up. So leading indicators are in our world of coaching are called the 3 C's. And the first one is clarity. Okay. Are you and or your people, the people around, are we clear about what the mission is? Are we clear about what we're trying to create? Okay. On a scale, and it's a very simple conversation, a scale from 1 to 10, how clear? What's our level of clarity? Okay. Number 2 is what's the level of certainty? The second C is certainty. So anytime you start something new, you're going to have a low level of certainty about what you're doing, right? It takes a while to get used to it. So consider that with new people, new employees, new members of Rotary. I can imagine, like, if I'm a new person coming into this group, sometimes it's kind of intimidating, to feel like, to see what it's like to be in that new group and to feel my way into that space. And so when my certainty is low, my willingness to take initiative usually is also low. So what can I do then to help grow an employee or a team member's certainty so that they can have a greater level of it? And then the last one is capacity. And then in my work, I will literally get into it with employees on a physical, mental, and spiritual level. What is their capacity to be able to perform? I can go as a third party, I can go into the spiritual part. Sometimes you can't as a coworker and as an employee because HR law, and sometimes things get a little bit fuzzy. But I can have that conversation because as a third party, we will go there. But for sure, the mental and the physical capacity, I'm talking health-wise. I'm talking how clear are they? And so here's an interesting thing. Sometimes people get a little weirded out when I bring up the word meditation because they maybe don't have a background or an understanding. Meditation is simply just taking some time to clear your mind and get some oxygen in the body and breathe a little bit. It can be as simple as that. It can go far more in depth, but that's the basics of it. They did, I read a study in a manufacturing setting, right? So it's like auto manufacturing, fabrication, like type settings. They did the study over about 20,000 people. Everything remained the same about their workday. And the only thing that they did is they brought them into a room little by little, and they trained them how to meditate for 10 minutes. Okay. And then the only structural change that they made in the workplace was giving them time to do it. Okay. So very simple. We taught them a very simple thing. Here's how to just quiet your mind and breathe. Here's 10 minutes a day to do it. The results were astounding. 3 things I'll just share off the list. Number one is absenteeism plummeted. Accidents plummeted, right? And engagement scores at work went up. And that's the only thing that they did differently. And all we did was give people space to just do them for a few minutes. And so we increased their capacity. And on just one of the C's. But excuse me, what's funny is when we improve capacity, when we do that, just that one simple practice, just that one behavior, all of a sudden it tends to impact my certainty because I'm just a little bit more, my mind's a little bit more clear. And then I tend to be more clear on why I'm there, what I'm doing, and what the components of my job are. So, Raleigh, as I bring this in for landing, because I know I'm probably pushing up on that 15 minutes, and I just want to, kind of put a bow on this, so to speak. And I'll certainly stick around for any questions if you guys have any, or I can. You've got my number up there on the screen. Certainly, feel free to shoot me a text. So, I grew up in Minnesota, in the central part of the state, very rural. My dad was he was a wholesale distributor of leeches for fishing bait. Leeches. This is my job. Like, my job as a kid was to go out and trap leeches. Okay. and bring them home. And it was literally my own business. I've been self-employed since I was 12. At 12 years old, he gave me the keys to the pickup to the small farm truck and said, go find some leech ponds, put these traps in the water and bring me back some leeches. And I got to start. That's how I got my start, right? So maybe almost a millennial, but I actually got a chance to go out and screw things up and find a way to cover my butt so dad didn't get mad at me. And I developed that sort of that cognitive development along the way. But that was what we did. We would sell 16,000 pounds of leeches every summer for fishing bait. So show of hands if you ever thought like your chores sucked as a kid, right? You have no idea how sucky they can get until you grow up on a leech farm. So one of the things I learned over time, because I got to see a lot of employees come in and out of the organization as a kid. And so literally one of the jobs in our family company was leech sorter. And so it's not good enough just to have leeches for fishing. There are small leeches, there are medium leeches, there are large leeches, and there are 4 different sizes. There are jumbo leeches, and you price them accordingly. This is the conversation you wanted over lunchtime, right? And so what I learned though is like every time you bring in a new leech sorter, right? It took time, and on their first day, they might only be able to sort 10 pounds, right? Because it's just like to look at, there's 200 leeches almost on average in every single pound. So you're looking at a couple thousand of these things just to get that far. And then as they progressed, we go from 10 to 12 to 20. And pretty soon, some of the best ones could do 100 pounds a day before literally almost going crazy. And we just need to send them home. So it was a 5-hour workday because they could do 20 pounds an hour. They could do 100 pounds in a day. And that was one of the jobs. When you come in, it's not very clear what it really takes. It's not like the certainty that it takes, because they're very slow, because their certainty is low at the beginning because they don't want to make mistakes. Because if you screw up, you got to start over, and you don't get paid for what you have to resort. They got paid on a per pound, not a per hour basis. And the capacity just has to build little by little by little. Okay, just has to build little by little by little. And so it boils down to those 3 C's. And along the way, as the coach, as the leader of the team, right, your job is to help them get clear on this is what we get to do in order to do the job. And sometimes in today's world, especially if you have younger people on your organization, my friends, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to be asking your question, why can't they just figure this out? When I was doing this, I just figured it out. Okay. I want you to, for many kids today, the average kid in America is getting their first paying job after the age of 20. So that means so most of you probably had your first job around 10 or 12 like I did, right? And so you had 10 years of cognitive development around how to manage expectations in order to receive money. So now your kids coming out of college or junior college or straight out of high school almost have never had that. Not in every case. I'm generalizing, and I don't want to there's a huge spread of difference across employees. So you'd have to really pay attention to each individual one. But some of them may not have the cognitive development about how to manage your expectations in order to receive praise, in order to receive additional coaching, in order to receive money. And so we get to help them become clearer. We get to help them grow their certainty through coaching and through training. It's just the way, and you may say that's an expense or that's a lot of time, but it literally is this is the way. And there's no shortcutting in that world. Otherwise you will have other problems. You're going to have higher turnover than you need. We implemented one of our programs with a multinational livestock feed company that we work with. And they had 40% turnover in their sales force in their under 25 category, and 25 and under, so young employees, right? And we took them from 40% down to 15 to a healthy 15%. They're turning over the ones that just shouldn't be there. And they're keeping the ones that they want. How? Simply, we focus on the 3 C's: clarity, certainty, and capacity. And then we give them tools to help build capacity. So I'll give you a couple of quick resources. I saw somebody asked where the study is. I'd have to go find it for you. I read it in an HBR article a couple years ago. I'll see if I can do some searching for you. If you'll just either, just text me at the number above, or the number on my thing. Let me know your name and I can get back to you when I track that down. The other thing I would offer, we have an app that has some cool resources in it, and it talks a little bit about some of the clarity, certainty, capacity things, and has some other resources in there as well. It's called the Thrive Today, #ThriveToday app as well. And it's got a bunch of good stuff in there for you, and you're welcome. It's free. You can download it and you can connect with me, and we can chat more in there as well. It's a gamified social learning platform that we're currently in the process of overhauling. It's going to have a lot of cool personal development information for the individual as well as the leader over the next 6 months. So feel free to have that. But Raleigh, I appreciate you asking me to come on here. Everybody, appreciate your time and attention. I hope there was enough value in here to say, okay, I took away a couple things. Your 3 C's are absolutely crucial on the leading end. If I can know as a leader, I'm supporting the 3 C's, I will inevitably get those lagging results that keep my business moving.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I just had to point out that past President Patrick Bullard wrote in the comments, in quotes, "Things were sucky on a leech farm. Ha ha, I get it." And I literally laughed out loud when I saw that. So thank you, Pat. Does anybody have any questions for Mark? Because I do. I have one question. Oh,
Yeah.
let Lynn go first, and I'll go after Lynn.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so it seems like what's lacking is teaching kids like you. I was constantly, as a kid, figuring out ways to earn money. As a kid, at 8, I had my own daycare. I charged 50 cents a day, all day long, and it included lunch. And my mother was thrilled. Okay. And my son also worked. I made sure he coached soccer. He's a millennium. But you're right. Today I have a friend whose kid is turning 20 and has never worked. So, they all play computer games. So it seems like, is there different parenting skills that are going on today, or people scared to have their kids work? Or
I'm going to refrain from hypothesizing too much about why did this happen? As a society, things are going to move and shift and grow and change. I would encourage you not to spend much time on the news right now and get too caught up in things, and focus on how you can help and what you can do, especially with what's going on right now. But just over the course of media, television, so we had TV, cable TV and cable TV back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? And now the advent of social media. I'll point out one thing. This is something that you moms can do, regardless of where you come from. There's a lot of what I would call mom shaming that we see. And if you're a mom, then you probably have seen this. It's like, and some moms do it to themselves, some moms do it to others, right? It's like, well, I can't believe she, isn't volunteering more at the school, right? I mean, she's a single mom with 3 kids. What do you expect? She's got to, and she supports her family solo. So what's the expectation, right? I think as you're finding out right now, there are entire populations in the country who maybe haven't had the opportunity or even the model, because your model as an 8-year-old to start charging for babysitting, that came from somewhere. We know by the age of 7, 95% of the neurological hardwiring that will drive your preferences for the rest of your life is done by the time you're 7. And so your environment, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, your birth order, your community, like what you grew up in, that was pretty well baked. And that's in the subconscious, and that will continue to influence and impact you the rest of your life. It can be moved and shifted and changed, but it's very slow, right? So a lot of these societal level problems that we're seeing now, in particular what's happening, right at this very moment, can shift and change, but so much of our programs are just so deeply ingrained, we almost don't know how to go to work on them. So you have entire populations that just didn't grow up with the model of the world for that level of independence. So what I'm seeing now is a lot of us are growing up more dependent on our moms and dads for guidance, for what to do next, for money. because that's easier. Because a lot of times you have, whether it's both parents working or it's a single parent household or whatever, it's a lot. So I would say there's a lot of factors that have gone into that. But this, to come back to this, the kind of the mom shaming thing, the dads do it too, on a different level, in a different way, and they feel it differently, right? Men and women, we feel it differently. But here's, kind of, it's almost like, well, I can't believe that you let your kid be out there doing all those things unattended, right? It's even happening now. Like, I let my kids go out and run around the neighborhood and go do things. There are certain parents who are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that, right? I'm just like, and I've gotten to the point in my life where I just don't care what they think anymore. Very, very few people can actually say that and feel that and are willing to say it out loud. And so a lot of this, it's just been like, it's herd mentality. So we keep the kids safe. And then what do you see in your media? You don't see, nobody shows you a news heading, a headline, even before COVID and all the things that are in the media right now, with Black Lives Matter and everything. And I think this is an interesting awakening of humanity that's going on right now. It's my personal opinion on this. But even before that, there was never a headline that said, kid goes to the park and makes it home safely. The only thing you ever hear of is a kid that went to the park and never came back, right? Hundreds of thousands of millions of kids could go to the park today and come home perfectly safe and sound and better for it. But we grow up and we've created this world where we're like, it's almost like we got to keep them safe. So it's actually safer to have them sit on the couch and melt into a video game than it is to let them go outside and play. Because at least here, I know they're not going to get kidnapped. I know they're not going to get, and I'm not saying that there's not some dark forces and some bad things. There are bad things that are happening out there, to kids. But that's the only thing we hear about. So we get scared and then we lock them in. We got to make sure that we know where they are at all times. And so then you have this is where this is not the entire story. So I'm trying not to generalize too much, but then you have the whole helicopter parent syndrome. So I'm just going to tell them where to go, where to be, who's picking them up, phones at 8, 9 years old so that they can call home and I can call them and check in on them. Right? These are things that we've done. So you've taught them that somebody's going to teach them every next step until they're 20, 22, they're out of college and they're like, wash my hands of that. And they send them off to be your employee. And then you're thinking, oh my gosh, the kid can't think for himself.
Well, you answered my question.
As you know, for the greater good, Raleigh, which was what? What was your question going to be?
Well, my question was, I've got a 14-year-old son, a 12-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old son, and I see how differently they spend their time than I did when I was a kid. Like you, I was out and about on a bike all over the city of Houston, getting in all kinds of trouble, and figuring out how to hide that from my parents. And it really I think it built me into a better person. And my kids, like Lynn kind of said, especially the boys, they sit in front of those video games all day, and I'm just trying to get them out of the house and doing things more. And everything you just said kind of made me solidified what I thought.
And far be it for me to give relational or family advice. I'm a divorced dad of 3 kids, and the one thing I'm very good is at being a dad, and I love that job. So what I do, I give my kids. So I focus on, so what do they naturally gravitate to? What do they naturally love? And so I do have, like, my kids get to play videos. Not that they're not playing video games. Like, they have iPads and they do schoolwork on them. I homeschooled them through some iPads over the last 3 months, and we got through 4th and 6th grade. But I remember it was the very first day of the quarantine era, let's call it. It was the Monday that this all got started. And my kids got dropped off at my house by their mom. And my oldest daughter, she's 12, she comes up to me, she said, Dad, how can I make a lot of money really fast? And I said, sit down, kid, because I'm solving that same problem today, trying to save my business, right? And so, and I said, so what's it for? She's like, well, there's this new game, Nintendo Switch thing that's coming out, and I want to get it. And I said, how much is it? She's like, $360. I'm like, okay. And she's like, what can I do? And we had started this project earlier where you can go online and build a web, it's called teespring.com. Anybody can go on and you can make a t-shirt design, and then you can whatever you want to put on a t-shirt, a mug, a hat, a sweatshirt, any of that stuff you can put on there, and then you can sell it. Teespring prints it, delivers it, handles the payment, and then they send you the profit. No cost out of pocket. You can literally start a t-shirt business for free today. Okay. No startup cost at all. I said, you'd started this a while back. I said, maybe you should just finish that project. And so, by golly, if she didn't do it, motivated to get a video game, but I said, okay, this is a fun game, because she's actually she's learning how to start a business right now. It has a tool inside there where she has to look at what's the cost of production. And then if I set my price at X, what is my margin? And so here she's 12. She now understands margins and how much I got to save for taxes, because she sold, she's sold like $2,000 worth of t-shirts and mugs and hats and socks and all kinds of, in fact, I had her go set up one for my business so that my customers could go get a Thrive Today t-shirt. So,
nice.
So I would say, well beyond my time, Raleigh, but I would say if we can leverage those things that they do love to get to go do some, to help them learn, and apply real skills, then why not use that as a carrot?
Got it. Thank you.
Darla, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Not a question. I was going to make a comment. First, thank you for everything that you've shared with us today. That's really great. I grew up in a small town in Louisiana, and so I can kind of relate to being able to run around the neighborhood and my mom didn't know where I was. However, my mom was very involved in the community, as was my dad. So there's not anything I couldn't do that didn't make it back home to mom before I got home. So I think that not just with raising children, but just in today, especially with everything we've been through lately, just being involved with your community, know your neighbors. Then, as you're raising your kids or as you're growing older, you have this community around you. And so I think that is just something that holds us all accountable. And then you find a little bit of more peace in your life as to, where you are and where you exist. So, and it really helps with kiddos too. So just wanted to make that statement.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Darla.
Yeah, 100%. I would say right now we're in a moment in history that, especially if you have kids or grandkids, this is an opportunity to not waste. We had quite the protests and riots in downtown Omaha, where I live. And when I knew things were safe, I put my kids in the truck and I drove them down, and we went, and I said, I want you guys to pay attention to this, because this is real stuff. There are real people hurting, and this is how we voice, and this is the right way this is the way that we do it. And I've had a lot of debrief questions with our conversations with my kids to learn, how do we talk about it? What do we say? What can you do? And it's been kind of a unifying thing around here lately.
Good. Yeah, just to wrap up, because it popped in my head earlier when you were talking about the 3 C's: clarity, certainty, and capacity. I'd never heard you talk about that before, but you represent those things so very well. It doesn't surprise me that that's what you use in your coaching. And also to say that you don't care what people think is an understatement, maybe one of the understatements of the month. So you really don't, and I think that is a virtue, to be able to operate and do you without worrying about what everybody else thinks of you. So thank you for joining us today, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank
Right.
you, Mark.
Margie, if I may, I missed you before on accident. I was going to have you give us whatever update you may have on our COVID initiatives.
Okay, well, no worries. All right.
You are muted, Margie.
All right. Todd, unmute me. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Todd. because I unmuted myself and then I got lost. Okay, so here are some of our latest. Can you see the screen? Because I can't even see you guys now.
Yes.
Good, yay. All right, so we went to the police department and delivered some of our Sugar Land Rotary masks, and we got our temperatures taken when we went in to announce our presence. Same at the Sugar Land Fire Department. We donated some masks to them. Also, I'm just going to scroll through all these pictures if you can see them as I go through. We have been active in our community dealing with the COVID crisis and trying to help as much as we can as individual and a small group of Rotarians to help. We have new yard signs. This is the yard sign, the new one that we have. And if anybody wants one, we're asking for a $25 donation to our Rotary Fund for the yard sign. And this one includes all the frontline workers, as you can see. And that is the old yard sign. You may or may not know that we have a Sugar Land Rotary Venmo account that you can use if you have someone outside of our club who wants to make a donation to our club, so that you don't have to take over that for them. All right, here is some of the other signs that we've done. So we have masks left. We have some of the Sugar Land Rotary masks left, and we would like to donate as many of them as we can to first responders, frontline workers, and charities. We donated some to the ARC of Fort Bend, and we've donated some to Ricardo's nonprofit that he runs. He's going to give some to some of the organizations that he works with, including Parks Youth Ranch and a few others. If any of you want a mask, okay, I owe Marvin Marcel and I owe Ward Pendleton masks, which I guess if you want me to bring them to you, I'll work that out. If you want me to mail them to you, let me know. But if anybody else wants a mask, there are some available to pick up at Sugar Creek Auto. Tab also has some that he can get to you, and I have some. But
And I have three extras
okay,
as well.
so
I got from Flo already.
Oh, awesome! Yay. Okay. But if you know of a organization that needs them, I'm going out to Meals on Wheels tomorrow to take some to them for their volunteers and their workers. But we still have a good almost 100 total left masks that we can donate to frontline workers and charities, which was the spirit behind it. Okay, Mark, Houston Food Bank, that's a great one. If you want to come get some from either Flo or Tab or me and donate them, deliver them, that would be awesome. Just, let's make this a group effort. And if you have any other ideas of things we can do to help our community through all of the crises that we're going through right now, I'm so glad that we are going to honor our first responders next week on our Rotary meeting, because they do put their lives on the line every day. There's a lot of issues in our country, but they're not all caused by the front line workers, by the first responders. And so I just wish for our club that we, when we have ideas about how we can help, how we can make a difference, how we can build goodwill and better friendships in our community and in our world, that we share it with each other and then we share it together, and that we do service above self, that we do demonstrate that we are people of action and that we help in our community. And that is why I got involved in all these little side projects regarding the COVID thing. And thank you, Todd, for thinking of me for Rotarian of the Month. I'm surprised and humbled and honored, and that's definitely not why I started all these activities. I just wanted to help. But thank you all, and let me know if I can get you some masks to help in the community.
All right. Yeah, I have, like I said, I have 3 at my office as well. If anybody wants to let me know and come by and pick them up, by all means, please do. Todd, did you have any updates for us before we wrap?
Yes, most of you, or all of you, should have received an email from me about Fall Classic. We are in the process of reaching out to our prior sponsors and those that don't or bought items in the auction, letting them know that we will not be having the Fall Classic this fall. There's a letter that's going out, and it's going to indicate how they can donate. One of them is through the Venmo account that Margie just showed. So we'll be sending that out in the next week or so. Also, real quick, 2 more things is the board's been talking about possibly going back to in-person meetings for those who feel comfortable doing it. We're looking at 3 different venues. We're getting agreement. They are Tarasco's, Fernando's, and Sugar Creek Country Club. So we'll have hopefully some solid information by this time next week at our meeting. And the last thing is we're going to be having a virtual 5K. Hopefully this week it'll be published. Just working out the cost factor right now. I will post that or have Mark post that on our website, and I'll send an email out with all that information.
Thank you, Todd. And for those of y'all who haven't heard yet, Sweetwater Country Club contacted me about 2 weeks ago and let me know that they would not be able to accept us back until maybe January of 2021, which is why we're now looking for something else, so another venue for us to meet in July, possibly. So thank you, Todd. Mark Jewell, my friend, thank you for joining us today. I thought it was a really great presentation. Michelle, one more time, happy birthday. So glad you could join us.
Thanks for everybody's warm wishes, and thank you, Mark, for your presentation.
Yeah. And does anybody else have anything else for the good of Rotary before we adjourn? I don't think so. All right. Well, then we will ring the bell, and we are adjourned. See y'all next week.